Well, good afternoon. My day is done. I've been here since 2 o'clock. It's about 12-hour day. Started 2 o'clock this morning. Date 10/6, which is a Tuesday. Doing something on Tuesday because tomorrow I'm crossing over to Canada. I could be there a couple of days, and internet service is very lacking if you have an American phone. I don't know what happens if it goes on there. So I did a question last week on a couple questions. Another question was asked on me on certain things because I do vote. I do absentee balloting because I drive. Hopefully I won't have my votes changed because I don't trust any kind of mail-in ballot really. But as I say, if you don't vote, you can't wah about it. So in Oklahoma, to absentee, you must fill out your ballot, put it in one envelope out of 3, take that envelope to a notary, has your name on it, or ID. You have to sign a second envelope. They have to sign that second envelope. You take your first envelope with your ballot, shove it in that envelope, seal it all up right there. Then take all that, shove it in a third envelope, which has the election board address on it. And then you take it across the post office or wherever, and you put your 55 cents on it, and you mail it off to the election board, and hopefully it makes it there unchanged and safe, and it gets fed into the machine, and your vote counts the way that you voted. The reason I say that is because there has been a bunch of uncovered fraud this year, and there's fraud every year. I'm not going to say it's one side or the other. I do believe it is heavier handed on one side. That's why people are freaking out right now, because the Supreme Court is a 4-4 basis, and the nominee that Trump had, since we have the Senate, I agree with them pushing on through with that, not for the fact of conservative, but the fact of is A, they have the presidency, B, they have the Senate, C, it's constitutional, 4, we don't need a 4-4 split when it comes to this presidential election, because it's going to be really, really nasty. If the Democrats, they won't answer a question on any of it. If they would have done it, if their mum's the word on that side, but I'm willing to bet, I promise you, they would push through whoever they wanted if they had the presidency and the Senate. So the question I got is because there's 2 questions on the ballot this year, state question 805 and 814. I don't agree with either one of them, so unfortunately I will not vote for either one of them. State question 805 basically says if you're a previous offender, the judge cannot extend your sentence time, cannot add anything to it. It's kind of like your first time offender. I don't agree with that, because nobody, the state Senate that put all this together, and the state House representatives and all that put all this together, would not list what was considered nonviolent and violent, what's considered felonies and not felonies. Okay? Says the change it would stop judges from using previous nonviolent convictions as a justification for increasing prison sentences for people convicted of new nonviolent crimes. Repeat offenders. Okay, what's a nonviolent crime? Nobody will say. This is a smart on crime measure pushed by the ballot by an initiative position that drew nearly 250,000 signatures. Great. Okay. You know how many signatures have gone through and nobody's ever did this? Right. The change would not apply to anyone ever convicted of a violent crime, but it would allow people currently in prison exclusively for nonviolent crimes to ask for sentence reduction. Okay, again, what's a list of nonviolent crimes? They won't give one. Okay. What that means is Oklahoma would prioritize its limited prison space for violent criminals that people would generally should fear. Okay, if you break into my house, you're probably going to get shot. Let's put that out there first of all. But if you break into my house, people are going to fear you. The house was broke into. Stuff was stolen. Nobody was hurt. It's considered a nonviolent crime. Okay? There's a lot of stuff that goes on in there. Says Oklahoma has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world, the highest for women. Oklahomans convicted of property crimes spend 70% longer behind bars than the national average. For drug convictions, 79% longer. Okay. Again, multiple offenders. They've done this more than once. So if they've done it more than once and got away with it, what's a lighter sentence going to do? It says it's bankrupting the state and skewing our budget priorities with no positive effect on public safety. We've tried throwing nonviolent criminals in prison. That didn't work. The policy only continues the cycle of poverty and crime and destroys families, leaving Oklahoma poor, sincerely, socially dysfunctional, and less safe. Okay, now, this was written by an editorial of the Tulsa World. I don't agree with that. Not at all. Okay, maybe if we were tough on criminals and they had to go pick up garbage and they broke out the chain gang, instead of treating them like little babies and spoon feeding them and actually treating them like convicted criminals like they did back in the day, instead of saying, oh, they've got rights because according to the Constitution, if you are found guilty in a trial of your peers and you get sentenced to prison, rights stop. Okay, now when you get out of prison, there's a process in there for all that too. But people forget that, and you have very different thinking people out there that says, oh, well, everybody's got rights. Okay, here's the rights you have. Peace, happiness, pursuit of happiness. You know, they're kind of listed God-given rights, not I have the right to do what I want. Your liberties stop when they infringe on my liberties. Okay. Next question. State question 814. This would redistribute money that the state receives from an enormous 1998 multi-state legal settlement with tobacco companies. This was, as in 2000, voters approved state question 692. That state had to put 75% of tobacco money in an endowment with earnings used to fund tobacco cessation, health programs for it, advertisement on quit smoking, help quit smoking programs, that kind of stuff. It says the remainder's gone to the legislation appropriations. The endowment currently has more than $1.3 billion. Okay. Again, $1.3 billion. Because it's gone to the legislative appropriations. That means they appropriate it. They can appoint this money for something. All right, so it said it would reduce the endowment share to 25% and dedicate the remainder to Medicaid expenses. Okay, so let's take all the money that we won and we're going to dump it on Medicaid. All right, Medicaid expansion, here we go. Let's give the state more money that they can't spend properly anyway. It says it would reduce the endowment share to 25%, dictate to Medicaid expenses that would continue to use the money for health purposes, relieve the state of part of the fastest growing segment of its appropriated budget, and clarify how Oklahoma could pay for recently approved Medicaid expansion. Huh. That shit y'all voted in a couple years ago that I said probably bad idea, and I told people that. How are we going to pay for it? They still ain't figured it out, but we're spending that money because everybody says, oh, it's free. Blah, blah, blah. Mm-mm. So now they're wanting to take money out of one program that was done 20 years ago and put it in another program. $1.3 billion. Trust me, not even an IBAT of that will get sent to the Medicaid. It will go somewhere else. It says the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust has served the state well for years and will continue to do so, but the funding distribution system that voters approved in 2000 can be changed by the voters if they see it as best in the best interest of the state. Nope, don't agree with it. Don't agree with it, don't agree with it, don't agree with either one of them. I think that if you're a repeat offender, you probably need horsewhip, beat with a hose, something. I mean, we have one of the quote-unquote toughest legal systems, they say, but we have one of the most lucrative or relaxed legal systems too. What I mean by that is the United States does not have debtor prisons, which means if you go out and you spend more money than you can pay for, you go to prison until that's paid off. And if you don't pay it off, then your kids stay in prison until it's paid off. And if they can't pay it off, then their kids stay in prison until it's paid off. Another thing is in a lot of places in parts of the world that if you steal something, they hand that you stole it with. All right. There's a reason why in big countries, mass populated countries, that a lot of crime didn't go very well with a lot of places, because they had strict, stringent enforcement on it. Now, please, on another thing is if you're voting for a Republican president, please vote for Republican Senate and House. Because if you throw a Democrat senator or Senate Democrat congressperson in there, all they're going to do is butt heads. And why people do that have no sense. It's not for the best of the people anymore. They have their own agenda. Why I say that? Why is the Democrats throwing a big fit over this whole Supreme Court nominee? It's not because she might do something unconstitutional. Whoa, she might throw a monkey wrench in the fact that people, according to Democrats, liberals, or whatever, have the right to go kill a innocent, unborn child. Well, we can't have that. She might throw a wrench in that program. You are sick if you think that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, all right, well, there's this or this or this or that. But, hey, you know what? What was an unplanned pregnancy? Keep your legs closed. I've had a couple unplanned pregnancies. Well, not me, but part of them. So, there's other ways to do it. There's adoption out there. There's, not the fact of walking through one time when I lost everything in my butt and I had only white family in probably 6 miles. Because of September 11th, literally lost everything. Got thrown out of the house, everything. And when you walk by your apartment that is in the hood at the time, and you hear people talking about, well, if I have another baby, that's another $400 in food stamps, it's another $500 in cash, it's TNNF, and all this other stuff, that aggravates the crap out of me. But different story. So, yeah, you know what? Go with it. Oh, another thing in this election. Why won't, again, Joe Biden list any Supreme Court picks that he wants to nominate? Why won't they put a list out there of this or put a list out there of that? They don't want to talk about it because then they know that will become the subject of whatever else goes on. Other than that, that's all off the top of my head. Like I said, I just want to throw a quick one out there on the state questions. Hope that answers some question. Please remember, this election is about true freedom, or which way this country is going to go. Are you going to remain free, or are you going to follow the illusion of freedom and continue into the socialist movement? Because a lot of these peoples have rules for thee and not for me. And if nobody's ever heard of Agenda 21, they need to get into that and read it, because 176 countries approved it, including the United States, back in 1996. Now it's something 2030. Can't remember the exact name, but you can find it out there, and you can find about all their plans, about how they're doing all the stuff that you can see. You can physically see them do it, and I just want to know what they're going to do with all the people they put out of work, because according to that plan that they've put out with all these countries, it's a pretty scary deal. Other than that, be safe, stay vigilant. Love y'all. Please like, subscribe, and share. And until next time,